Ya. Iya saya. Oke. Terima kasih. Terima kasih.
Busu, here is a letter for you. I put it under your door, okay?
Since Busus is required to find the inverse of K1 using adjoint method, then decrypt the message using the inverse and determine whether it is a correct message or not. First, he has to find the determinant of K1, and he got 42. Second, he has to determine the cofactor of matrix K1. Then, the adjoint matrix of K1. Next, he has to find the inverse of K1. Lastly, find the matrix M. Unfortunately, this is not the right message because the codes cannot be substituted into the matrix. The inverse obtained is in the form of fraction. There is no way to decrypt fraction as it will make no sense if divided by letters. Therefore, this message is not the right message.
The next day.
Which one I want to read? What is this? Busu, here your letter again.
To solve the secret message of K2 matrix, we need to find its determinant to determine whether the inverse matrix exists or not. This is the step to find the determinant. We can divide, multiply, subtract the row with certain number. The main goal here is to get an upper triangular matrix for the last step. Then, multiply the diagonal elements to find out if K2 matrix is singular or non-singular. As you can see, the multiplication of K2 matrix is 0. Hence, the K2 matrix is a singular matrix, which means the inverse for K2 matrix does not exist. Thus, K2 matrix is not the correct message.
1 hour later.
Letter for Busu again. Busu, maybe this is your last letter.
Okay, for the task 3, we need to find the inverse of K3 using either method or decrypt the message using the inverse. First, we need to write the augmented matrix. Next, we make a pivot for row 1 by multiply it with 1 over 3. Next, multiply row 1 with 2 and subtract it with row 2. Then, multiply row 1 by 4 and subtract it with row 3. Next, multiply row 1 by 2 and subtract it with row 4. Then, make a pivot for row 2 by multiply it with 3 over 11. Next, multiply row 2 by 2 over 3 and subtract it with row 1. Next, multiply row 2 by negative 5 over 3 and subtract it with row 3. Then, multiply row 2 by 8 over 3 and subtract it with row 4. Then make a pivot for row 3 by multiply it with 11 over 6. Next, multiply row 3 by 2/11 and subtract it with row 1. Then, multiply row 3 by 8/11 and subtract it with row 2. Next, multiply row 3 by -14/11 and subtract it with row 4. Next, make a pivot for row 4 by multiply it with 1/3. Next, subtract row 4 with row 1 and we will get the K inverse for K3. And to find the messages, we need to multiply the P that has been given in the question with K inverse, and we will get the messages, which is Malaysia Prihatin.
We can conclude that among the 3 messages, the correct one is a task 3, because when we solving the matrix, we got a message which is Malaysia Prihatin.
For the K1, it is true that we can solve the matrix given, but the final answer is in fraction form. However, the given words, the given letter does not represent any fraction. So, we cannot decrypt the message in K1, and for sure, it will not be related to what Busus got. Next, for the K2 matrix, if you try to solve the matrix, you'll get its determinant is 0. When determinant is 0, the K2 matrix is a singular type. As we learned, when it is singular type, singular matrix does not have any inverse version. So basically, when the inverse version is invalid, there's no hidden message for Busus in K2 matrix.